This is your boy J.Perk, and I am not chilling, I'm making money!
What's up, this your young boy, young J.Perk of J.Perk Productions. I'm back with my camera series, and with this episode, I'm going to basically tell you what long exposure photography is, and give you a brief, understanding of it and how to do it. So, long exposure photography is basically you having the shutter open for a long period of time. And the shutter is like the actual thing in the camera that moves. Like when you take a picture, you can have it really fast, which will freeze the action, or you can have it really slow, which lets in more light and then draws out things. So for the first part, if you want to do long exposure, it's best to have a tripod, something steady you can have the camera on and sit down, because as the shutter's open, whatever the camera sees is going to capture. So if you move the camera slightly while it's open, it's going to capture that blur. If have multiple people moving throughout the photograph, they're going to blur, and it lets an extreme amount of light. So during the daytime, even in that f/22, you might still, in the ISO 100, you still might can get a second or 2 seconds out in bright daylight. But if you had an ND filter or nighttime, is where it really shines. What you can do, you can set it on the tripod, and a slow shutter speed for me, I consider, let's say like a half second on until like slower. So we can go a half second, we can go like a second, a few seconds. And some of the Christmas photos I did long exposures because I wanted that ambient light. I didn't want any flash added. I wanted the light to be the light coming from the room. So what I did, I set had the 100mm 2.8 macro. I got my focus and everything set. I put it on a 2-second timer, and the reason I did that was because I wanted to minimize camera shake, because if you have the shutter open for a long period of time, even a tiny bit of camera shake will be noticeable in the final image. So what I did, I put the timer on and I stepped back, had my focus critically where I wanted it, and then I let it take the picture. I was about at f4, and I did it about 3.5 seconds, 2.5 seconds, and some of the images, they came out really clear, really good, just how I like them. And what long exposure is basically you sucking light from your environment. So you want to keep your background or your subjects, whatever, still, so you can really freeze and suck in light. So I mean, if you want to do the stars, suck in light, you want to just make the outside at nighttime look like daytime. And it's really a art. So I mean, you can have things blur. It's really an art, and you just want to have something steady to have your camera on. You know what I mean? Just steady, and then from there you just have the shutter stay open. You'll capture your images, and then they click off. And while it's open, it's capturing everything. So if I was to walk here and walk out, and then walk back into the frame, you'll see me blur and have me two different spots in the camera. So a long exposure is like taking one long photograph, and everything you'll capture in a normal photograph, you'll capture in a long one, but just more information. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but long exposure photography, I do a few just to get sucking the light around me if it's not a lot of light. If I'm just doing photos of certain objects, it's really good for that. I use my macro lens. I did some of the Lego stuff, not the Lego, the Hatch Truck Men. I got up close to it. The watch I did, just all those Christmas pictures in front of the tree when you see the light going inside the lens and you see the Christmas lights in my lenses. Those were long exposures. I had the exposure set to about 1 to 2 seconds, maybe 3 or 4 seconds. And I really didn't want to use a flash, and I needed enough light. And in that room, it was very dim. So what I did is I opened up the shutter. I let the shutter stay open for a good 2 or 3 seconds, and it gathered more light. And the subject was still. The subject being the lens or the Hatch Truck guys. It was still, and then just letting more light. And then from there, I got a well-exposed image, and it looks like I just snapped it, but the process was me pushing a 2-second timer and setting it to the correct exposure, which in that case was a long exposure, so I can get enough light. So that's basically what long exposure is. It's just capturing the image with a slower shutter speed. And that's really it. Just slower shutter speed. And how do you go about changing your shutter speed and stuff? All DSLRs have the option, the manual exposure, where you can change the shutter speed and different aspects like that in the photo mode. Some advanced point and shoots can do this, and you should be able to manually change it. And what a shutter speed looks like, it'll be like a number like 1/100th, 1/150th, and then you can tell the slower the number, like 1/150th, 1/125th, they're kind of slow. Then you got 1/2 second, those are really kind of slow. And then you got 1/250th of a second, those are the faster ones. So if you just take that into account, the slower it is, the less you freeze motion. The faster it is, the more you freeze motion. The slower the shutter speed is, the more light you let in. The faster the shutter speed, the less light you let in. So I mean, you still can use slower shutter speeds in your everyday photography, but knowing what a shutter speed is and how it affects your image is very important, and it's really helpful. I mean, and once you really understand that, you can really understand how to do some cool long exposure photography. And I'm still practicing on mine, but I'm still getting better, and I'm really enjoying it. So this is your young boy, young J.Perk of J.Perk Productions, and this is my camera series.